Skinner now has the lead back. We've probably had a dozen lead changes at the start-finish line, and maybe about 50 more the rest of the way around the track, huh, Phil?
Ron Hornaday's in a good spot to maybe get that first lap led here at Talladega Superspeedway. Right now running second right behind Ty Bodine in that outside line. That doesn't mean he's second in the race. He's just second line right now.
And again, officially, NASCAR calls a lead change when it takes place at the start-finish line. We've had 7 lead changes between 5 different drivers, and we're hearing now that it's a hood flap that has come off the right front of that 33 of Ron Hornaday.
The cowl flap. There's actually a cowl flap on each side of that of the hood of that truck. Let's see if we can take a look back at how that thing went away. Look at the right side of your screen. Watch the front of that 33 truck.
In order for that flap to pop up, you have to have negative air pressure right there at the hood, and he's got all of his air off of his hood. He's right on Todd Bodine. Watch it open when he hits Todd.
Yeah. And then it closed when he moved back away from him.
And then he's second back in that middle line, and there it goes. Flies off of the truck.
Now, they could black flag him and ask him to come in and put another flap on that truck.
Yeah. Take a little
watch
on board.
When you're right on someone, your flap's open.
And there it goes. It's just held on really with a very, very small aluminum bracket, a hinged bracket.
It's supposed to have a spring that holds it down as well. The spring keeps it from flapping back and forth unnecessarily, and the spring either came undone or didn't do its job for the other.
There's so much air and wind that buffets off of these trucks, and we saw how it was able to pull a piece of metal off of the 33. Well, that also leaves a piece of debris on the racetrack, and that is why we are under the third caution. It is debris on the racetrack. That is the hood flap from Ron Hornaday's truck. Oh, the Albertsons number 16 of Brian Scott just ran over that piece of metal.
Well, the good news is that's just a piece of aluminum. That will not affect him. I don't even think that could cut a tire down. But I'm not sure if NASCAR won't make Ron Hornaday's team put another cowl flap on, and they may not be prepared to do that. That's not something that you would automatically have a spare of.
And when you put it on, it has to be functional. You can't just tape one on there because it has to operate so that if the truck spins, the flap opens, keeps the truck on the ground.
They may have sent somebody back to the truck, to the backup truck, to get one of those off of there, and then they will try to rig some sort of a bracket to attach that to that truck.
Aerodynamics are so important at these racetracks. Now, a lot of times, if there's an accident, something happens, we see the Bondo or the Barabon going on a car or a truck. Is this a situation? Is it required to have that flap?
Yes.
So he will have to have that flap put back on, and that's why the NASCAR
is working with them there. And you can't just tape it over. It has to be functional. Now, if you have damage and your truck's not up to speed, they'll let you pretty much tape it up where it'll go run. But when you're competitive and racing for a win, you have to stay within the rules. You have to have all the aerodynamic devices that are on the truck for safety purposes working.
You know, one thing we have to remember now, the reason for that cowl flap is to let air out from underneath the hood of that truck if that truck was to get sideways. With that open now, NASCAR may determine that is functioning. That's really a disadvantage for them, that the fact that there's no hinged piece right there now. So NASCAR may say, hey, if you're okay with it, we're okay with it, because right now it will do what it's designed to do and let air out from under the truck.
And that's a disadvantage for Ron Hornaday?
It will be a disadvantage, a less aerodynamic front end for that truck than it would be.
But the problem would be if Rick Wren said, we're just going to come in and tape that hole up, and NASCAR would have a problem with that.
And we see Rick Wren continuing to talk to not only the team, but he was talking to the NASCAR officials.
They're making a plan.
In the big picture here, Ron Hornaday comes into this race with a 224-point lead. There are currently 6 trucks that are off the racetrack. Jason White, Murphy, Brendan Nupp, Robert Richardson,
we just got the okay
TJ
to cover
Bell,
it.
and Jennifer Jo Cobb. We just heard
guys, this is
we
4
can
tires,
just
4
cover
tires
it.
only. Trucks are coming off 4.
And now they're saying they can't cover it.
I don't see how they could let them cover it.
But again, 6 trucks are off of the racetrack. Norm Benning's 3 laps down. Matt Crafton is still a lap down. Steve Park a lap down. Mike Wallace was a lap down. But now we're going to have an Aaron's lucky dog because of this caution.
We're getting a report that NASCAR has told them that they can leave it like it is. They cannot just cover it and not have it functional.
Let's go down to pit road. Chris DeVota.
Brian Scott is in the first pit stall. He said, yes, he did run over that piece of aluminum, but it was laying flat, hit it with his right side, and that is why this team decided to call the audible. They said they were only going to do right side tires. You see crewman under the fender. Everything is clear. Right side tires only for Brian Scott. Adam.
Chris, I'll grab it because Mike Skinner is getting 4 tires also. And my end of pit road, it'll be a classic double dip. Tires now and fuel later. Now at Adam.
Middle of your screen, Kyle Busch getting his left side tires. That completes a 4-tire stop. Todd Bodine pulling away bottom of your screen, gets turned around. He will lose a ton of track position. Brian Scott, the first off pit road.
Todd Bodine came out of his pit stall, and again, there is some wet pavement down there. Todd Bodine getting on the gas, spun all the way around. There was no contact, but he got turned around. Now he comes back out on the racetrack. Again, 4-time winner at the Super Speedways, 4 in a row.
He just said he spun out in the wet.
Yeah, he almost spun out again, trying to get back on the racetrack, Adam.
And I think you heard on our air, the radio from the team, the plan is to come back and get another set of tires, fearing that when Todd pulled away and spun around, he flat spotted the ones they had just put on. You almost have to be perfect to win one of these races. Todd Bodine knows how critical that is, having so much success. He's going to have to rally back from some adversity here. They will come back for tires and then come back a third time to fuel the truck, and we will see all these guys come back down pit road here to get fuel. That will happen at lap 41.
Michael, I believe I would leave those tires on there.
Those tires are fine. Hello.
So the only time that you flat spot tires is when you lock them up, because he wasn't going fast enough to just slide sideways and flat spot them.
Well, when the tires are brand new, they're very slippery anyway, so it's not going to hurt anything.
And we could see we never saw those tires stop turning either. I don't believe I would change tires if I was them.
For precaution, they can change them, then they can put them.
They can also put those back on if they need to.
But you know, we heard Adam talking about you have to be perfect to win one of these things. If you're going to make a mistake, you better make it in the first half. And get your then put together a perfect race from there on out. You can get a mulligan or two if it just amounts to what Todd just did. He can still win this darn race.
6 laps away from halfway in this race. Let's go to Krista.
1 can of fuel and part of the second for Brian Scott. They made the right side tire change on the first time. They came back in to get 1.5 cans of fuel. Ray.
Here's the situation on the 33. They do not have to replace that flap. NASCAR told them that it was an operable flap beginning. They cannot cover it, but they can leave it just the way it is. Lots of fuel going in. Hornaday stalls his truck. They'll push him here, try to refire. He's going to lose a couple of spots, but they're allowed to leave it the way it is. Adam?
Kyle Busch got fuel only on his second trip down pit road. Brian Scott holds serve. Busch was second, Skinner third as they exit at lap 41.
The truck's continuing to come off of pit road, a little bit wet pit road, and around goes Todd Bodine, but he's back going the right direction. Bones having a little fun with our camera crew. Rick Wren, not so much fun right now here at Talladega.